I know we didn't have to do this. I know that we've already been to Mass today, and we got to see a Eucharistic miracle. We had, to me, in my opinion, a wonderful homily by a wonderful priest who really just made me reflect and think, as homilies are supposed to do, about our place in the journey. But I have to tell you, the one thing that annoyed me, which helped me at that Mass significantly, that really, really annoyed me, is that when they were taking up the collection, they bypassed me. So, they take the basket, they're passing it down the aisle, asking everybody to support the church, and then they get to me, and I'm putting my hand out to put money in the basket, and they yank the basket away. Now, this is the same attitude, and this is not a knock, this is the same attitude that Nina had with me on the last day of the trip. When I went to get my medicine, when I went to the quick care center of Croatia, or whatever it's called, when I went to get my whatever, Nina gets everything set up for me. Nina helps me pay for all of this. Nina buys me a bottle of water. I'm trying to give her a tip, and she refuses my money. Then, on the last day of the trip, when I was trying to give her something, you may have seen this, she refused to take my money. Now, I get it. I do. The idea, you shouldn't be taking money from the clergy, you shouldn't be taking advantage of clergy, whatever. I really do understand that. But in my understanding of the faith, the reason why I think the faith grows with whatever I do is because if I am to sacrifice myself, and if I am willing to humble myself to be lower than you, to be less than you, then great things can happen. So I base that off the second chapter of St. Paul's letter to the Philippians. He who is in the form of God did not deem equality with God, he's God, something to be grasped. Rather, he emptied himself and took the form of the slave, bearing us in human likeness, so whose name every knee will bend and tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord by the glory of the Father. He became less than all of us, and on that cross, after he was humiliated, after he was abused, after he was killed, after we killed God on a cross, he still did it because he loved us. And the ultimate act of humiliation, I was thinking about it as Father was reading the list of the 12 apostles. What a bunch of lunkheads that Jesus picked. Now think about this. What lousy choice did he make? If you were in a business, and if these were the 12 individuals that were called to head up the corporation, one who denies Jesus 3 times, 2 that are more concerned about sitting at his right and his left and doing the ministry, 1 that doubts that anything good comes from Nazareth, 1 that doubts that he ever rose from the dead, and 1 he chose who betrayed him, you'd be saying to yourself, this is an idiot CEO of our corporation. He's a moron for picking these people. And yet, he picked those specific people because despite their shortcomings, despite their fallacies, despite the fact that it's been documented in the Bible that the entire world reads, in the ultimate act of humiliation, why would he pick St. Paul? He killed Christians for a living. If he were alive today, that guy would be serving life without parole, or worse, in prison for what he did. And yet, he chose that particular individual to be the ministry of the Gentiles. I look at these examples and I say to myself, unless I humble myself and realize that every single person has something to teach me, something to make me understand. Here's a woman. Now think about this. What did we talk about earlier today? Who does Christ show the apparitions? We've been looking at all these young people, these kids from Medjugorje, these kids from Fatima, all these kids, St. Bernadette from Lourdes, all these young people. Why the young people? Why these innocents instead of the adults? We talk about this because kids, usually at that point in life, probably are not going to be corrupted like us. Well, why the Blessed Mother? My guy, she was a teenager. She was a pregnant, unwed teenager. That person would be reviled by our society. Why her? Yes. He picked her. He picked her to be the mother of God, the first tabernacle of the church. So as I keep reflecting on this, I say the only way to get to heaven is to humble myself to be less than all of you, So that by being less than all of you and serving all of you, I see what's good is in you, so I can become a better person. So for instance, not to build anyone up too much, if it weren't for these two, St. Pat's would be closed in laments right now. The community would be dead. I walked into a church that had less than 25 people showing up to any given Mass. Did you go to St. Pat's before I got there? You did. Less than 25 people showing up to Mass. Now all of a sudden, they can't close St. Patrick's because we got too many people. The person who brings her electric little guitar to our Masses, who provides music that we have by no business having, notice that the Mass that they had in the church of the Eucharistic Miracle had no music. Like, we have a better choir than they ever had. We have somebody who's more energetic than most of us combined, except for her, when she's not sleeping. We have two people who represent the tradition of the church, who, if it weren't for them, I'm not here, and if I'm not here, I don't know if we're going to be here, who represent the solid foundation of the church according to the way that God has spoken to them. We have somebody who David Supernaut insisted needed to come to the Holy Land. David Supernaut is the reason why you're here, because he said, of all the students in RCIA, there are only two that really got it, that really understood what the faith was about. Now, that may not be true, because some of the people who he said didn't get it have been showing up to Mass each week and have been very active in the church. But he said, this one, keep your eye on this one, make sure that she knows how important she is. So when an opportunity came for us to go to these wonderful places of worship, David Superman said, is there a way that we can get Marissa to go to Medjugorje and Fatima and Lourdes? And then we worked it out down in Ireland, so we made it possible. So by just taking a moment, by thinking about what each set of couples have brought to me to help me in this ministry, notice what happens when we all do this together and we build this faith through humility. Humility is the foundation of prayer. Humility is the foundation of everything. That little position you have with your knees when you do that, that humble, crouched up position, that is one of the most humble prayer postures that we have in the faith. The lamb is the humble symbol of the faith. It's brought from the Old Testament, from Exodus, with the Passover and sacrificing the Passover lamb, that Jesus in the Gospel of John was killed at the same time that young baby lambs were being slaughtered at the time of the Passover. That lamb represents innocence. And notice that on all these excursions we have gone, Medjugorje, Fatima, Lourdes, Jesus goes to the lambs. Our Blessed Mother goes to the lambs, because they are the ones who have not yet been corrupted. These are the ones who live this kind of faith. And if we live that kind of faith, I just need to keep seeing the smile. I just need to keep seeing this faith shining forth in all the different ways that you're doing it. Because if we can do that, if we can open our hearts to learn from each other, then look what happens. Then all of a sudden, instead of focusing on the negatives in the world, and that's what the world does, it focuses on the negatives. Now we focus on the positives. Now we focus on what's good. And look what ends up happening as a process. Look at how many friends we made today. Look at how many places we've been. Look at how much work I got done today in Fatima over in Illinois, because we opened our hearts, we did what we did, and we made things possible. Let's realize it's forgiving that we receive. It's in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Humility is the foundation of prayer. If I don't live that, I can't be a good priest, and neither can you in your respective ministries. Let's be humble to the Lord as we share that example of faith with the people that we meet. This is our prayer.